So I'm going to be painting this beautiful peacock feather, and I love painting these because of the vibrant colors. You can see we have a close-up, so that means we can get some of the details and see some of those colors. All right, so the first thing I want to do is go for one of my most favorite colors on my palette. Happens to be this turquoise color. Isn't that beautiful? I am going to work with the lightest colors first. So I'm going to make a little puddle right here of some of the turquoise and start painting it right here around the eye. Now, when you're working on a watercolor sketch like this, you might want to go ahead and take a pencil and just very lightly sketch in the outline before you get started. You don't want to press down really hard with your pencil. You want to keep those pencil lines really light so you can, they're almost invisible, just like on mine. And that means that those lines will not show through your drawing or your painting. So I'm going to paint around this little area that almost looks like a heart right there. And I'm just going to pull this color all the way around. And then I'm going to use the tip of my brush, almost like I'm drawing, and just pulling that around right in there. Now this little puddle of color is still wet, so I'm going to pull this around and then put some other color in there. Let's try some green, because I do see some green here in the photograph, so I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. And I'm going to show a really fun technique where you can go ahead and just start painting wet into wet. This is a little puddle, so puddle of color, and so whatever I put on top is going to mix in. Now, I'm using watercolors for this, but if you were using, say, colored pencils or some other kind of medium, then you can always layer your colors. So you could start out, say, with your turquoise and then start adding some color over the top instead. Now, I love working with watercolors because the water really helps to move some of that paint around. You can see we can get some really beautiful colors. This is actually a darker turquoise that I have on my palette, and so I'm using that to kind of mix and merge with the other color. Now I'm going to show another nice little technique. I'm going to take some lemon yellow right here, make a little wee puddle of it, and then using the tip of my brush, I'm going to take that and just swipe this edge. So what's happening is the yellow is actually mixing in with the turquoise and giving us kind of this really nice green color. Because I do see a lot of variations of color just in that middle section. All right, so after I've done that, I'm going to show you another really technique that I like to use. I'm going to take some water, I'm going to take a bigger brush, and what I'm going to do is swipe all the way around this feather right in here, okay, pulling it all the way around, okay, and then after that I'm actually going to come back with some lemon yellow, a little puddle right here. Maybe we'll mix just a wee bit of green with that color, okay? And then what we want to do is use the tip of the brush and pull it all the way around. And sometimes when I'm painting with watercolor, I feel like I'm drawing because I use just the little tip. And so it's kind of the same as, you know, if you're using a color pencil or whatever, you just use that tip and you draw around that area. Okay, just like that. So we're getting in some of this greenish yellow that we see right there. All right, and then after that, I want to mix up some purple. So I'm going to take some blue. I love to mix my own purple. So I'll usually use this color called cobalt blue. Then I want to swish my brush around a little bit and take some pink. So now I have a nice purple. And what I'm going to do is, once again, using the tip of my brush, I'm going to start spreading the watercolor all the way around, just like that. Just pulling it all the way around. See that? And then right down here. All right. So there we go. We're just building up those layers. Okay, and then also swiping that edge with some water. Okay. Now, if you were using something else to create your peacock feather, maybe you were using colored pencil, then what you would want to do to get these light colors is you want to not press down really hard. You want to go nice and soft. and that will give you the more pastel-y type light colors. With watercolor, however, in order to get a light color, we just mix lots of water in with our pigment, and that gives us these nice light shades. All right, I'm going over the top just because I want to add just a wee bit more color and push it around right there. Okay, now I'm going to show you another technique where I'm going to take one of my really big brushes. Look how big this one is. It's got a big point on it, and this is for doing nice big areas. I'm going to swish my brush around a couple of times right here, and I am going to moisten or wet some of my paper. Now this is because I want to get the nice soft illusion of some of these little parts here of the feather. So I'm just going to go ahead right now, wet my brush, come all the way around, just pulling it up and allowing the water to soak into the paper, okay? And I'm going to show you a trick or a technique that I like to do. So we're going to let that soak in, okay? And I'm going to also look for some of my small brushes. This is a long skinny brush, look at that. Okay, so if you are using a brush and you're painting with watercolor, it's nice to have some of these small skinny brushes because they give you those nice skinny detail lines, right? Now, if you are drawing a peacock feather, then I think it's a great idea to make sure that you sharpen your pencil so you get a nice sharp point. And then when you go to do these skinny little lines, well, guess what? Then you can get those nice details that are so important. Now, what I'm doing right now is starting out with some of these very soft lines, okay? Because I want lines that have that kind of soft feathery look to them. So that's why I put some water down on my paper. And you can see how these lines just kind of spread, right? So I'm going to just do a few of these, just a few in the beginning. And I'm going to come back in a little bit and add some more, because whenever we do a painting like this, we really want to do it in stages. Now I'm going to take a look at the center. Look how bright and vibrant that is. So let's take some of one of my favorite blues. This is called Cobalt Blue. I just love this color. Isn't that pretty? And so what we're going to do is start stroking the color right in the center. Now what I like to do is whenever I work on a particular color area, I like to look at that main color that I'm seeing, which is this really pretty blue, right? But then I like to see if there's any other colors that I could add. Now everything is kind of in the blue family, right? However, some of the blues that we're seeing are quite dark. So what I'm going to do right now is go for this color and just paint around the edge. And what is happening is we're getting two different blues mixing and merging together on the paper. See? It's kind of spreading that around right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here, is just kind of pull some of this color up here, right here, pulling that right there. And then right in here, I'm just going to come here and just pull it up. See that? I'm going to just go ahead right now and just pull this up towards this area so it kind of looks like a heart shape. And then I'm going to come over here with a dark blue, really dark blue, and add a little bit of black to it. Because I don't want it to be too dark, right? But look how dark this area is. So once again, I'm going to come and just swipe this right along that edge, right there. So we get more of a darkened edge. Okay, now I can always come back and add another layer in just a little bit, because for right now, I want to start moving to a different part of my painting. So I'm going to go ahead now and take this black color right here. And then just pull it around. See that? So what's happening now is I'm also creating some more of those long, skinny little areas on my peacock feather, but my paper has started to dry off a little bit more, which means that the lines do not spread quite as much. And so I'm just going to pull them down right in here and up in here. And also some more here. So you kind of have to move fast too with the paper. Now, if you're using a pencil, of course you could make sure you've got a nice sharpened pencil to get some of these really nice skinny lines, because those are so important to make this peacock feather really look realistic. And what I'm doing is using the very tip of my brush, see, like this, and kind of pulling it down, swiping this downwards. And I'm also creating some other long skinny lines by pulling it upwards. So I'm using two different ways and more over here. Do you see how I create the shape? I'm actually going ahead right now and just pulling it up and around like this. More and more, just all the way up. I'm just going to push this painting upwards just a little bit because I want you guys to see what I'm doing right in here, just around, all the way around. And you want to put quite a few layers of those lines on there. And in the beginning, you might need to go slowly when you're making these little curvy lines to get them accurate. But after a while, you'll get the hang of it and you can pick up some speed. You'll get faster and faster. So I'm going to put some more in here. Okay. And then more over here. Okay. So there we have some of those lines. Now I can also go back over the top. Do you guys see how there's a lot of purple in there? So once again, I can have some fun mixing my own purple color, my own lavender color. You can do that with pink and blue. You can get a beautiful pink if you do that, beautiful purpley pink shade. So I'm going over the top. You see how some of these lines are looking a little bit gray? Well, it's really nice to start adding in some more vibrancy by putting another layer, maybe some darker little areas if you want. Some over here, just pulling this upwards. And I'm doing the same thing over here, taking some more purple, and then watch how I do this. I'm going to make these little tiny dashes. These are great just to get some of the little details that we see on this peacock feather, pulling this all the way around, just like this, right there, and then all the way around here. Okay, then I'm going to mix a little bit more yellow and some green together, making this kind of lime green color, which I really like. And once again, darkening up, because when you're working with watercolor, you start out with the lightest color and then you can layer darker colors over the top. And the same is true with other materials. Maybe you want to start out with kind of a light general color, and you can always put another layer over the top. Remember, if you're using something like crayons, pastels, colored pencils, you are going to want to press harder, and that will give you a more vibrant color. If you are using something like watercolors, you are simply going to use lots more paint with less water, and that will give you a more vibrant color. So now I'm taking this amazing color that I really love. It's kind of a gold color, and I'm going to just take some from my palette. It has a really funny name. It's called Quinacridone Gold. Isn't that a tongue twister? But really, it's just a kind of a gold color. If you don't have this, you can use yellow and brown together and get a very similar color. Isn't that a pretty color? I'm just going to go ahead and start spreading this around this area. It's kind of like a coloring book. Do you guys see how this area is all white? Well, we really want to make sure that we get some color in there, don't we? We don't want to leave that white. So we're going to pull this all the way around. Now you might see that in the beginning, I leave a little gap between this gold color and this turquoise, okay? Or maybe this yellow area. And that's because I don't want the colors to mix together too much. But you'll notice that as the colors dry, then I'll come back and close up that little white gap. Just like that, see? When I come and spread that color using the very tippy tip of my brush and going backwards and forwards, you can see how that just begins to close up that gap really nicely, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm using the tip, just spreading this all around. Okay, right there. And then once again, still building up more layers, just going layer after layer just to get that vibrancy. Okay, right over here, I'm just coming around here and putting some of that vibrancy right there. And then I'm going to go back for some more darker purple, which is a mixture of our blue and our pink. And I want you guys to see how I come back in and do more strokes, coming back and adding even more of some of that beautiful color over the top to build up some of the brightness and vibrancy that I'm seeing on this feather. Okay, over here, just coming around. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just let that dry off for just a second. And I wanted to show you guys, I have a picture here, right? But I also like to look at things up close and personal. If I can get a real example, I like to look at, look, this is a real peacock feather. I want you guys to see some of the different colors, because sometimes a photograph isn't always totally accurate. So if we study a real one, we see, oh, look at that. We can add some of that bright green. So that's exactly, I'm going to lay this down here so you guys can see it. I'm going to put some of that green on there. So it's a mixture of a really bright green. So this color looks pretty close to what I'm seeing on the real peacock feather, right? So what I'm going to do now, actually, I will use a different sized brush this time to get some of that color in there. And let's go ahead right now and start layering over the top just to add some of that color. And all of these different colors and layers that we have put on here is all part of making this peacock feather really come to life. Okay, so I'm putting it over the top of some of our purple and gray, and I want to show this other really cool technique where I actually come and soften right here. Do you see I put water on the top? It helps to blend it, okay, right in there. Okay, and I'm also going to swipe this edge so it blends in, because that's part of what you want to do with whatever subject you are working with. You want those areas to blend nicely together, right? And up over here, taking some more of our green, and over here I want to start adding some more of this green, kind of pulling it up. See that? And then also, let's take maybe this brush right here, a little bit of turquoise, okay, and we'll put some color pulling upwards. See that? That is going right on the edge of where we had that purple, just adding some of that color that's so important. Okay. So we want to layer on top of some of the gray that we had. So that's what I'm doing, is coming and layering this turquoise right there. And any place where I feel like it needs to be blended, I'll just take a regular brush and maybe a touch of green on it and then go right over the top. So once again, that layering process is what helps everything blend together. Now, a lot of times when you look at a subject that you find in nature, you will find all kinds of colors. It's usually not just one color. For instance, on this little feather here, perhaps you see some turquoise and some green, but if you look close, you'll see little hints of other colors. And that's what makes working with subject from nature is so much fun because you get to discover all kinds of really cool things. And nature is beautiful and so much fun to use as inspiration. You can see how I'm bringing some of that beautiful turquoise color. And by the way, turquoise definitely is one of my favorite colors. In fact, if you ask me what my favorite color is, I might say turquoise, but really, I just love all the colors. And so I'd say the vibrant colors are more my favorites, like pinks, purples, blues, yellows, oranges, reds, etc. Maybe the earth tones, not so much. But you know, earth tones are actually colors, say like browns and grays and things. They can be so useful though for different parts of your painting. For instance, I am going to go ahead and show you how useful the color brown can be, because I'm actually going to come and add some of it now. Look at that, isn't that pretty? That is adding some of the definition. And do you guys see how in this peacock feather there is some brown around here? Now obviously we see in the photograph it's a little bit closer, so we see the brown, but we also see little flecks of kind of this goldish color. So you definitely don't want to leave earth tones out of your paintings, because having a variety of different kinds of colors is going to make your subjects look so much more realistic. Okay, and if you look at nature, you might go and be, say, you know, observing a beautiful garden or something and seeing these lovely green trees, and then look at the colors of the trunks, brown, right? Dirt is brown. And then you see these flashes of beautiful, bright flowers, beautiful blue sky, blue water. So all of those colors together actually is what helps nature, you know, really look as beautiful as it does. So including some of those neutrals and earth tones can be very helpful. And you can see how adding the contrast there of this beautiful rich brown is really helping this peacock feather look so much more realistic. Now I am adding these little dashes just like this. You see that? I'm adding those little dashes, and then I'm also going to come back with my brush and add a few more dashes of color coming down here, and I'm moving quite fast, taking the tip of my brush, going this way and coming all the way around. Okay, just working on those layers. All right, and then I'm going to come back in, take some darker brown, and then I'm going to go over the top because I want to get some more emphasis. Pretty much everything that I do with my drawings or with watercolor is always about layers. Okay, now I can work for a really long time without a break, just because, you know, because I've been doing it for so long, right? Now, in the beginning, if you're starting out drawing, don't feel bad if maybe you can only work for, say, 15 minutes to half an hour. And then you can go ahead and just take a little break and go back to whatever you're working on after that, and you'll get fresh inspiration. And just believe me, anything you do with drawing and painting, you always start out a little bit, you know, with as far as your skill level, but if you keep going, you're going to watch yourself just grow and grow, and that includes in your ability to concentrate and work for longer periods of time. So you can see now how I'm adding in some of these little darker lines, right? These ones in here, those are so important for the emphasis. So I'll give you a little story too. When I went to art school, I remember that we used to have to, it was really fun actually, because our homework, believe it or not, consisted of drawing and painting. How fun is that? Okay, so I remember our teachers, professor, would give us an assignment, and I would be only able to sit and draw maybe for about an hour or two before I'd get a little bit antsy, right? But within a few months, I was able to sit there and draw and paint. I'd take little breaks, but for hours on end. I guess it was because I loved it so much. But the other reason is because it's all about practice. And when you practice something, it's always going to be a little bit tougher in the beginning. You're going to come up against, you know, roadblocks and challenges. But never get discouraged, because everything you do, the more that you practice it and just keep on keeping on, no matter how bad you think your work is, if you keep practicing, putting in that time, of course you need good teaching. My teachers were always really awesome. They taught us amazing things. So you want to have good instructors as well. But if you do your part and you put in the time, you are going to surprise yourself on just how amazing you will get. Okay? So here we are putting in some of those lines, and you can see how the water is really helping me to blend everything, right? It's helping everything to blend beautifully. I can still put a little bit more of this color over the top. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the center because it's kind of dried off right now, so I really want to add some dark blue. Now I have this beautiful dark blue, I think it's called Prussian blue, and it's kind of like a navy blue. Kind of loaded my brush up with it, right? I'm going to show you how I fix this, because this started to bleed a lot more than what I wanted, and I used to get upset when I made mistakes like that, but you know what? After a while, I just figure out a way around it. So what I'm going to do is just increase the size of this little heart shape in the center of my peacock feather by just pulling it all the way around. See, I just covered it up. So that's one way you can fix things, is you just go over it with a darker color and maybe adjust the size of something. And then I'm going to also darken the sides of this little eye, because it's so important that this eye look very big and dramatic. I'm going to change my brushes at this point, come back to some of my darker color. And the other thing you want to do is think about switching your brushes out sometimes. Use a medium-sized brush for most of your work, but anytime you get into details, you want to pull out that little brush that will help you get in some of those beautiful details. So I'm pulling this down, okay, because I really want to, I sort of want to play up some of that texture that I'm seeing right in the center, right? So that's helping it to come together. And I also love that beautiful turquoise color. So once again, I'm going to emphasize that by taking some more paint. Remember I talked about going from light to dark with watercolor, right? So I'm going to need to punch up some of the color just around here, okay? And perhaps around here, just kind of pulling it around, and right here. So we want to punch the color up by going a little bit more vibrant, and then right around here, here we go, pulling it together. And I am also going to let this dry because I want to start working on more of these little areas here with the, I'm going to pick up this peacock feather so you guys can see. Isn't that gorgeous? So we want to start painting these. Now, if we look at peacock feather, the real one, we can start looking at some of the colors, kind of a brownish color, little tinges of green. Maybe we could put a little bit of violet in there, or gray. So I want to put this back down here, and I'm once again going to take up my small, tiny little brush. This little brush that I have is called a rigger brush. See that? It's really good for details, long and skinny, right? And then I'm going to come and put a line right in here. So we're going for a darker color this time. We started out with soft, light pastel colors, didn't we? And now we're going to start adding some of those darker colors. Just over here, we're layering. And put another one here. Another one here. Do you guys notice how I'm using a curvy stroke? Do you guys see how I'm also using the very tippy tip of my brush? That's going to be so important when you create little skinny lines, is that you use the tip. And you get into kind of this rhythm where you just take your brush and you go up and around. It's quite fun. First time you do this, you may need to really slow down. Okay, that's normal. First time you're not going to be able to go super fast like I am, right? But if you keep practicing over and over again, you're going to notice that you will actually pick up speed. Okay, and over here, I'm going to put some more of these because we can see that these little lines come out from the center here of the peacock feather. And we're using some of those beautiful colors underneath. So I'm going to come over here and I'm getting that nice curvy stroke, taking some more. Black would be a good color for you to use. Just make sure that you do put lots of water with it and that'll turn it into a gray. Okay. And over here a little bit more. Okay. Making curving in and then out. Some of my paper's still wet, so I'm getting some of those really nice soft lines. Okay. Okay. So we're almost finished with this. We have a few more details just before it's completely done. And put this one over here. Some of these might be a little bit more defined. That means darker than the rest. So I'm going to come over here, taking a little bit more gray, and then I'm going to use the tip of my brush and just pull it down. See that? Those details are so important. And then maybe another one over here, and another one over here, like that. And then we can also add some more. See that? Let's take some more of these. So basically, when you're doing this part of the peacock feather, you really want to spend a lot of time creating the layers of the outward part here of the feather. So you might need to do it in stages. Maybe you spend 10 minutes creating that and then set it down. Maybe the next day you come back and finish it, just because anytime you are doing a very detailed part of your painting, it's important to be really patient, but also pace yourself. You don't have to do it all in one day. You know, you can do a little bit maybe for 3 days, and then at the end of it, you're going to be so proud because of all the work that you put into your work, and all the time that you did to create something that has several layers. And I am creating this darker blue. Now for me, like I said, I've been working in watercolor for a long time, so I don't mind working for long stretches of time, but that comes with practice. The more you practice, the better you get, the more confident you get, and the more that you get, you know, skilled and able to work for longer periods of time. Okay, so here we are putting some of those in there, and I also want to do a couple here. Look at that. So really see, those are important. Get some of these little areas. I'm going to pull this out just like this, right there. And lastly, I'm going to, once again, changing the shape of my brush, dipping it in the water, going right here, coming here. Okay. Right. All right, so almost finished with this. This is so much fun. I just love painting these beautiful feathers. Another one over here. Okay. So once we've established that, now we can come back and just clean up any areas that we need to. So I'll take a little bit of sun green right here, start painting around the edge. So I really want that to stand out. Okay. It helps that really pop out a lot more. I'm going to take some more of my purple. And actually, I'm going to go for some green right now. A nice bright green would be really good just for this edge here. And you can see how I'm just putting little dashes around there so it really shows up and gets more definition right around there. And then maybe soften some of it. There we go. Kind of pulling it out and just blending it all with, you know, the tip of my brush, and then coming back in here. And lastly, I'm going to do a different color because I do see some beautiful green in there, especially right in here. I'm going to put a little bit more green and maybe some green in here. And a little bit of this dark color. Pulling this down. So some of these dark strokes are going on top of my lighter strokes. And I can always take this bigger brush here, changing it out a little bit more. And coming over here. I like to have some of those more bolder strokes right on top, so it makes it really pop out, a little bit more dramatic. Because that's exactly how I would describe a peacock feather, as being very dramatic. Okay. A little bit more here, and just pop this out. Okay. And lastly, I think I'm just going to go for a little bit more brown, because I really want to get this edge there looking like a little bit more dramatic. Take some brown. Okay, and remember we started with that gold color, which was a lot lighter, and you'll see how with watercolor it's good to layer over the top. And I'm going to soften this just a wee bit with water. Just kind of swiping my brush, traveling all the way around here. Okay, making sure I get this. So I'm going to pull it down. Okay, and in here. A little more detail work with a few more strokes. All right, so there we have our finished peacock feather. That was so much fun. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I'll be popping on here doing some more classes from time to time, showing you guys different techniques. And a lot of what I do is live, so you guys can kind of jump on and also talk to me through the chat. I love to hear about your painting experiences. So until next time, welcome to my studio, and I hope to see you again.